The essence of Wisdom 68 is captured beautifully in the phrase, "When intellect is complete, speech diminishes." It's such a simple idea on the surface, but there's, a profound depth to it when we really stop and think about it. You see, what it's really saying is that a truly wise person knows the value of silence. They weigh their words carefully, speaking only when their input adds meaning or clarity. And it's not just about saying less, it's about saying the right things for the right reasons. This makes me think of a media training session I attended a few years back. The trainer was preparing us for live interviews, and one of the first things they said was, "Silence is your ally." At first we were like, hang on, silence? Really? Aren't we here to learn how to talk? But their point was that sometimes it's the pauses in conversation that create the most impact. I remember them telling us to embrace those moments of stillness. Instead of filling the air with, unnecessary chatter, they taught us to pause, reflect, and then respond with precision. And the effect, when done right, was remarkable. You could feel people's attention sharpening, like they were leaning in to catch every word. So in a way, this wisdom aligns perfectly with that. It's about the maturity that comes from trusting silence, from understanding that we don't need to speak constantly to make our presence felt. It's a lesson I think about often, especially in today's world, where noise and chatter are everywhere. And honestly, it's made me appreciate the beauty of a well-timed pause. The more we embrace this idea, the more we realise how powerful restraint can be. Because really, speaking less doesn't mean having less to say. It means choosing to say what truly matters. All right, so let's dive a little deeper into this idea of measured speech and its relationship to intellect. Now, Imam Ali has a powerful metaphor for this. He compares the tongue to a serpent. It's a striking image, isn't it? But when you think about it, it really captures the duality of communication. It can heal, inspire, and connect us. Or it can harm, alienate, and mislead. The idea is, just like you'd treat a snake with caution, words deserve the same respect. Because once they're out there, you can't really pull them back. They take on a life of their own, shaping how people perceive you, and sometimes doing damage you never intended. It's, humbling if you stop to think about it. Now let's talk about excessive speech for a moment. Here's the thing. When someone talks too much, especially without intention or purpose, it often conveys, a lack of self-awareness. It's almost like they're more concerned with hearing their own voice than actually engaging in meaningful dialogue. And that's not a great look, is it? Let me just share a little story here. Early on in my podcasting career, I had this habit of over-explaining things. Honestly, I think it came from a place of wanting to sound knowledgeable, But one day, after a recording session, a mentor of mine pulled me aside, and he said, "Eric, you're oversaturating the conversation. You're not letting the ideas breathe." I'll admit, I was a bit defensive at first, but over time I started to see what he meant. Listeners don't need every detail spelled out for them. Some of the most impactful moments in an episode come from knowing when to stop and letting the audience fill in the blanks. It's like giving them space to think alongside you rather than talking at them, So how do we go about actually applying this concept of measured speech in daily life? It's one thing to talk about the wisdom of restraint, but it's another to live it. And the beauty of it is, the approach is really simple. Listen more, and when you do speak, pause to ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it meaningful? Is it kind? There's a kind of elegance in this minimalism, isn't there? I mean, think about the people you find most compelling, those whose words seem to carry weight. Chances are, they're not the ones filling every silence. They're the ones who choose their words so well that silence becomes their ally. And we can all do this, right? We can practice leaving space in conversations, letting others speak, and really absorbing what's being said before jumping in. I'm reminded of an interview I had a few years back. It was with a guest who was well known for their thoughtful and honestly very quiet demeanour. I remember asking a question, and there was, I kid you not, almost a 10-second pause before they answered. At first I panicked inside. My immediate thought was, did I say something wrong? But then they spoke, and it was, and I mean this, the most insightful response I'd ever heard. That silence was deliberate, and it completely shifted the energy of our conversation. Instead of rushing to fill gaps, I found myself leaning into their rhythm, and the result was so much more authentic and, meaningful. Moments like that remind me how powerful restraint can be, not just in professional settings, but also in our personal lives. It's not about saying less for the sake of it. It's about creating space for clarity and connection. And honestly, it's not easy, especially in a world where we're conditioned to respond instantly. But it's worth it, you know? It's worth taking that beat to think, to reflect, and to choose your words with intent. So as we wrap up today's discussion, I'll leave you with this thought. Silence doesn't mean absence. In fact, it can often mean presence of mind, of dignity, of wisdom. Practicing measured speech isn't just about how others perceive you. It's about cultivating an inner calm, a sharper intellect, and a deeper respect for the power of words. And on that note, we'll call it a day. Thank you for tuning in to this exploration of Wisdom 68 from Nahj al-Balagha. It's been a pleasure sharing these reflections, and I hope they inspire you to find strength in silence and purpose in your words. Until next time, take care and speak wisely.